You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to talk DC, and I'm going to discuss how I really feel about DC. Now, a lot of you guys that are on the nation, that have been with the channel since day one, and who really gotten to know me over the years, you guys know that I take any opportunity I can to meme or diss on DC on a regular basis. And for those of you who are not on the nation, have stuck with the channel, have been around to see my videos of the past, yeah, you would probably think the same. But the truth is, I do that in jest. I always do it in jest because we have a couple of DC fans on the nation I like to make fun of. Obviously, Joey from the podcast is a huge DC fan. And, you know, my real feelings towards DC are actually very positive. First of all, I mean, I watch The Flash, I watch Arrow, I love those two shows, and I'm very happy that they're returning tonight, or at least The Flash is, and then tomorrow's the Arrow. And also, you know, I consider DC to be a very important factor in the development of graphic novels, their impact throughout the years. And also, there's a good number of DC characters that I actually like very much. And if I were to do a top 10 of my favorite superhero characters, you would see at least several DC characters in that top 10 easily. Superman is probably my number one favorite DC character, followed by The Flash. Batman's still in that list, but as you've probably heard on my podcast, you know, Batman is not, I don't like him nearly as much as I used to, and that's just because he's very oversaturated. And that's one of my biggest criticisms of DC and Warner Brothers, is that while Batman is a fantastic character, he's just utilized way too much. You know, they don't take advantage of some of the other characters they have. You know, when you got a group like that includes Superman, you know, Flash, Wonder Woman, the Green Lantern, you know, these are fantastic characters that I would love to see not only on TV shows and cinema, but I would just love to see more of them and less of Batman. And not only that, I think that would be an advantage in the sense that when you do release something Batman related, you know all the fans are going to be there. They're going to be there to watch it. They're going to be there to celebrate it. So why not, you know, take the time to develop these other great characters and then bring in Batman into the fold when you think he might be missed or when he might be utilized best. But I consider, you know, my biggest criticism right now for DC has been the movies right now, because if you guys remember a couple of years back when the Batman vs. Superman came out, my biggest criticism for that movie was the way they forced in the death of Superman. To me, that was heartbreaking to witness, because and a lot of you guys on the nation have heard me, and if you've come to the podcast, you've heard me really hammer this home a number of times. But my biggest gripe with that movie more than anything, now look, I could have forgiven that movie for the story plot and all that kind of stuff, because let's face it, it's not like the Avengers had the most groundbreaking story in the world, but what made it such a good movie was bringing the group together and this and that, great action. I would have easily forgiven the story of Batman vs. Superman if they hadn't done what they did at the end. That to me was the biggest insult to comic books, all comic books in the world, because of all time. Because, you know, for those of you guys who are my age, some of you guys who may be growing up now weren't around back then, the death of Superman was a very impactful comic at the time it came out. It was one of the biggest stories. It had a lot of media coverage when it came out, because at that time, Superman was probably on par, if not a little bit more popular than Batman. During the 80s, you had all the Superman movies. Christopher Reeve made Superman very popular. And watching the movies, reading the comics, Superman was indestructible. So the idea for him to die was mind-boggling, and people were just distraught over the idea of Superman's death. And that was I remember it being such an impact. I mean, literally shook up the comic world. And it was, when I look back at that story and remember how impactful it was just a momentous occasion for the comic book industry. And DC was right there for that. DC was the one. They were the driving force behind that. And there's no doubt that DC had, up until maybe the last 20 years, had led the way in comics. And I recognize this. And so that to me was the biggest issue. I almost took it offensively that they did that, because it was such a great story and for such a great character, and to shove it in for the last 15 minutes of the movie and to do it in such a way that, in the way they did it, was just very heartbreaking to watch. You know, that would have been a perfect movie in and of itself. And they just kind of washed it. And on top of that, Batman, you know, being in the movie, I mean, obviously they used the death of Superman and The Dark Knight Returns as inspiration for that movie in combination with each other. But I really think they should have taken the time to make a well thought out Superman trilogy focused on that story. And I think DC would be better off for it. I think the rushing that they've done to catch up with Marvel has been more of a detriment to what they're trying to accomplish as it is trying to tell a good story, you know? There's no doubt that DC stories and DC's characters are just as good and on par with Marvel, but their execution on the silver screen and their development on the silver screen has been very poor. And it's very sad, because when you think about a movie with Batman and Superman, two of the most iconic superheroes known to man, world renowned, it should have been better. It should have been better. It should have done so much better. And the fact that not only was, you know, again, a lot of people didn't like the story, this and that. I would have forgiven the story if they had never done what they did at the end, because I think when you put big characters like this in a movie, you got to sacrifice some of the story. And if you're going to sacrifice the story, then you got to make the action good and stuff like that. And I was fine with the action. You know, the Batman scene throughout that movie when he's in the Batmobile, when he first shows up in the Batmobile and he's doing that chase, that sequence was phenomenal. You know, I was okay with the fight between Batman and Superman, you know, so I think there were some elements in that movie that were perfectly fine. I thought the plot, while it wasn't great, again, me personally, I was willing to forgive it. But when they pulled off the death of Superman, that was really bothersome. That's probably the number one thing that bothered me in that movie. And that's the one thing about that movie that made me really, really not like it. But in terms of how I feel about DC, I really, really do like DC. I do it in jest because I like to meme and I like to troll, and and it's fun. It's fun sometimes. And I am very critical about DC's movies because I think they should be doing better. I think that they should be taking their time. I really do think that they have dropped the ball and not taken advantage of what they could develop if they just slow it down. You know, I mean, we're already getting a Justice League movie next year. Next year. And we're what? Two movies into the DCEU? I mean, by then we'll be 3 movies in? So, I mean, I don't know. And it feels fast, and it probably isn't. Maybe the Avengers probably was only 4 or 5 movies in when they got the Avengers. So it may not seem that fast when you do movie count, but it feels fast because the development leading towards it has been very small. You know, I mean, we're going to have we have the Man of Steel movie, if you want to count that as part of the DCEU. I personally don't think it was ever part of that. I don't think that was the beginning of the DCEU. I think the beginning of the DCEU was Superman versus Batman. And, you know, we're getting the Wonder Woman movie, which I hope is their saving grace. And I feel confident it will be. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be really fun to see that movie, and I hope it does well. But it just feels fast. When you think about Justice League coming out, even though it might only be 1 or 2 movies off from when Avengers came out in terms of how many movies were out for their universe, for their relative universe before the big group, you know, get together, while it may only be 1 or 2 movies off, it feels like it's a lot faster. And that's because these characters have not been, I think, developed, or the universe has not been developed in such a way that I think would make their universe more effective. So hopefully they can right the ship. I think Wonder Woman will be a good start if it's a good movie. I'm hoping it is because I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited to see that movie. It looks good. And then we'll have the Justice League and see how that goes. But, you know, the good thing is they can right the ship. They need to make a Superman sequel. They need to make it good. The Flash movie needs to be good. They need to bring Green Lantern back into the fold. I would have much preferred Green Lantern coming into this universe in the early going as opposed to Cyborg. But be that as it may, that's the way they're setting it up, so we'll go with that. But overall, I like DC. I really do. I love Green Arrow, love the Flash. You know, comic-wise, show-wise, they're fantastic. Right now, from a movie standpoint, I think they're doing very poorly. They should be doing better. I think they're rushing it. I just hope they slow down, take their time, develop their universe properly. Let us get to know these characters, these other characters outside of Batman and Superman without Batman having to be there. You know, if I see the Flash movie, I don't want to have to see Batman. You know, we've seen plenty of him. And of course, when the Batman movies come out, I'm sure they'll be enjoyable. We'll all like them. But I think for now, we need to just kind of focus on the other fantastic characters that DC has for them to have a great universe to compete with Marvel, because that's what we all want. The better the competition is, the more of these movies we get, and it'll be a lot of fun. So that's it for this video. I just wanted to kind of let you guys know, not a DC hater, but I am very critical of their movies. I think they should be doing better. But I really want them to be successful because I enjoy DC's stories. I enjoy their heroes, and I want them to succeed just as much as Marvel can, man. That's good for all of us. So anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Let me know how you feel in the comments regarding DC's universe versus Marvel. You know, do you think DC should have taken their time? Do you think they should have gone a little bit slower? Do you think Justice League is coming out a little bit too fast? And anything else you want to add, let me know in the comments. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. You can follow E.T.N on Facebook, Twitch or Twitter, or join the Nation Facebook page. Don't forget to click that subscribe button on your way out.